episode 510.
Oh, I love that. 510.
What's your favorite part about it?
That 5 and 5 is 10.
Yeah, I do too.
And the colors all are nice together.
Yes, right.
Just like
Which ones are they?
Green and gray and white. So it's just kind of like muted. But like a muted green. So it's like a foresty green color when you mix them all together. Oh, lovely.
All right. Sends good vibes for us today.
Like a lighter foresty green, but
okay.
still.
I like it.
Yeah, because the zero is white, so it kind of like makes it a little lighter. But none of you guys need to know that. Or if you're like, what the hell is she talking about? It's because I have color graph mace synesthesia and all colors and numbers. And I haven't talked about that in a minute, so, I had to work it into the conflict. You know how I do.
Okay, so we're episode 510. How are you today?
I'm doing... Oh, I just hit my microphone, so I'm like clearly really excited. Hand gestures, waving all
Very
in the
animated.
air. I'm doing well, Like, except I have a little bit of anxiety about something.
What? You never have anxiety. This is weird.
Oh, I was scrolling through my Instagram, and I saw a preview that somebody posted for a trailer for this documentary that's coming out. That's called, like, Down in the Valley or something like this. Have you heard this?
No, I thought you were going to talk about a different one. What's it about?
Okay, so this is terrifying to me. I'm trying to get the name of it because I was not going to talk about this. And then now that you asked me how I'm doing, I'm like, well, actually, now that you mention it,
oh, no.
Terrified. So it's about, it's a documentary about kind of like Erin Brockovich style, like a group of moms who got together because their children all have cancer. And they did research on the area and what was going on. There was the largest nuclear disaster in the United States, about 5 miles from my house.
No.
Yep.
What?
Yes, this happened the spill was in 2010 too.
Wow, why
and
don't
there's
I know
this
about
cleanup
this?
job, and this is new. It's not new information, but it's a new. Oh my gosh, it's like the darkness of the valley, or what the fuck is it called now? It's killing me. I was looking at this. You know what? I saved it on my Instagram, so now we're gonna see because I have to now that you mention it.
In the Dark of the Valley.
Is that? Did you find it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Suze, this is where I live.
What the fuck?
I know.
You're
that
a
not
goner.
terrifying? Oh, okay, and this is the real crazy part because my mom, she said the one thing about where you live, Sarah, is I don't know what it is.
Oh no.
The rates of cancer were so high.
God damn it.
There must have been something going on, and she had been talking about that since we were little.
Come on.
Many of her friends.
Sarah, this is terrible news.
I know. So then you were so okay. And when I moved here, I don't know if this is a thing, but I swear Bo refuses to drink her water.
Oh no. It is like Erin Brockovich.
I know. So I've been drinking only water that's bottled and only stuff that I get from the grocery store since I've lived here. My refrigerator doesn't have a water thing, so that's good because it makes it so. But WTF, right?
Oh, I mean, that is the worst news. You are like a professor emeritus in choosing housing that's problematic.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
Oh it sucks.
My God. I mean, listen to this. Led by Melissa Bumstead, the community demanded a full cleanup of the area, but received pushback from the site's corporate and government owners, Boeing and the Department of Toxic Substance Control. It was clear that the public was largely unaware of what happened at the SSFL, which is the the name of the Santa Susana Field Lab, or the risk it posed to the community. And the mothers were determined to shed light on the ever-looming threat. Family after family shared their cancer stories with us, some of the children being treated at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and some with the children we would never get a chance to meet. The resulting video petition sparked momentum for their cause, and it became clear that we had no choice but to tell their larger story. The trailer is the first look at their story, a feature-length documentary which will premiere this week.
We got to talk to the director.
Susie, this is where I live.
Right. We got to get
this
the
is
scoop.
my mom had been taught. So like, what do I even do about this?
No. Oh my God.
That gives me a little, my anxiety's founded, yes?
Yeah, that's not great. I wouldn't like that story.
Not ideal.
No. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't panic or anything.
What are you going to do? I mean, and it's really like, don't drink the water and don't fucking go over near that area where it's radioactive.
Oh my God. Is it 5 miles you said, huh?
It's in, I mean, let me, I wonder if I typed in Santa Susana.
It's been nice knowing you. I mean, we had a good run.
Right. Field Laboratory. 13 miles.
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't like that.
Santa Susana Field Laboratory is 13 miles away from me.
I'm so sorry.
Whew. That's crazy.
Where did you see this trailer on Instagram? Like it was a a sponsor?
I followed somebody who you know where it was? That 30AF one, that account that I love. It was posted on there. It said, "What do Kim Kardashian, my best friend, and something else, and like NASA have in common?" They all appeared in this documentary together on, and then I looked at it and I was like, that like topography that they're showing looks familiar.
Oh no.
And I clicked on it and like swiped up and checked it out, and I was like, oh my fucking God.
It's weird that I didn't even know this
last
happened.
Night.
I didn't know there was.
Neither did I, because everybody's buried it. Like NASA's somehow involved. Like NASA is part of the they're the ones doing the research there, and they're the ones that caused this spill. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I'm sick right now.
Yeah, that's bad news.
Yeah, but besides that, other than that, I'm fine. Things are great. Life's good. No problem. Just don't drink the water.
Right. All right, Sarah. Well, we'll look into that. We'll have to find out more and interview the director for personal reasons.
God, right?
Man, it's scary. You might, you know what? You might need to call the good people at BetterHelp to assist with your coping.
Definitely. I have acute anxiety.
BetterHelp is great for anyone, whether you live near a nuclear power plant disaster or not, because they provide licensed counselors, a professional therapist for you that you can access with your phone or your computer from your house. You don't have to go into any offices, and you can start communicating in under 24 hours. This isn't self-help. This is professional counseling, and they have people that specialize in depression and stress, anxiety, self-esteem, anger, all the stuff that we all struggle with, and you can find the right one for you. Services are available for clients worldwide. It's super convenient and affordable, and a lot of people have had great luck with it. It's a great thing, if you're a little intimidated by therapy, which I think a lot of people are, so you can test the waters. We want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting BetterHelp.com/BrainCandy. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/BrainCandy. My therapist told me this week I'm doing a great job, Sarah.
Oh, well, good. You are doing a great job, Suze.
Thank you. I feel like everyone could use a helping hand these days, so do what you got to do. Okay.
Definitely.
First up, but right before we got on this call, I learned something interesting about bees, and I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and share that.
Well, I love that.
I love bees, and I'm on this save the bee thing. Everyone, even though I hate their stinging,
right? 50% of people agreed with you, which is crazy.
Oh wow! Okay. Well, do you think because I always say bee stings really hurt, and we thought maybe it was because I'm allergic that I had that feeling. Do you think it's just a difference in pain experience? Or
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's what the very non-scientific Instagram study I did.
I know that you have a high pain tolerance, but I wonder if there's anything that doesn't bother me, but that you would really be uncomfortable with. If each body's different in that way.
Yeah.
But we'll never know.
That'll be fun to even think about.
We still haven't even done our asparagus
Do you hate
pee.
this? Do you hate this?
Right. What do you think about paper cuts?
Oh my God, the worst.
Stubbing your toe, stepping on a
I
Lego.
have one right on the tip of my finger. It's awful. But this is not about bees. So let's get back to your bee story.
There's a guy I follow on Twitter, Phil Torres. He's I guess he's a naturalist or whatever. And he was saying that it's sad when people write me saying they are doing their part to save the bees by getting a beehive. If that's your goal, this is a bad idea because A, it is like getting a chicken coop to save wild birds, and B, amateurs are more likely to spread disease to other bees. So the best thing you can do to save the birds and the bees in your backyard is to plant native flowering plants.
Yes.
Use fewer pesticides and leave some wild space that isn't mowed or raked. So you'll have a badass garden, but the bees will thank you, and I will too. That's information I did not know.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I thought getting the hive was good, though.
California, well, I did not know that.
Yeah,
but I do know that the plants are the best. But I didn't know that about them poor little bees getting little bee colds.
Yeah, because they're the honeybees aren't the issue.
Can you imagine a bee with a tissue? He's
I'd feel like a little.
And then every time he coughs, little puffs of pollen come off of him. Oh, God, it's adorable.
See? Right. We're killing these damn things, and all these efforts.
Getting sick.
They're getting sick, those little bubbas.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that. That is such a good analogy, though, like a chicken coop to save wild birds.
Yes, but why?
I would have never thought about that.
I thought that when you had, you bought one of those hives and then they could make their home in there, I thought that was advantageous. But
I feel like the struggle is not them finding homes, though.
Okay.
As we've learned, because they find them in cars. And whereas the struggle is the places to get pollen and the diverse plants.
Okay.
What are they called? Monocrops?
Okay.
There's a name for it. It's when they're basically in huge areas of land, acres and acres of just one crop, and that kind of lack of biodiversity makes it so the bees suffer.
Yeah.
So they need to have multiple a variety
of plants.
Of plants.
Right. I'm so glad we know this now.
Yeah.
So,
I did make a big stink about that when I had a house in Coto de Casa. I was when I owned a home and, we did the remodeling of the backyard.
Yeah.
I was making a big old stink about it. It's got to be all California native, and I want the ones that bring the bees. And I got into an argument with my ex because he's like, I don't want bees around. And I was like, I want bees around. And we got bees because the landscape designers agreed with me.
Yeah.
And then they were all over our pool. And I was like, yeah, what else?
Yeah, you do kind of have to put up with the bad in order to do the right thing in that one.
Yeah, but we're saving the bees here, people.
We're saving the bees. So if you didn't know that,
you might have to
welcome.
Get a sting or two.
Yes, and just suck it up, Suze. It's fine.
Yeah, suck it up.
After my problem in the ER the other day, I have a whole new I've recalibrated my understanding of what pain is.
Yes. If that isn't the truth, have you ever broken a bone?
Never broken a bone.
Okay. We're getting somewhere because with that in mind, you have a low tolerance of pain, but have you experienced a lot of physical pain?
Well, I was in labor for 23 hours, and that wasn't pleasant.
Okay, well, that will do it.
I had a boob job, it's surgery, whatevs.
Yeah, that's awful. But and in labor,
And then I
You do
ended
get
up with
some
a
of those good
C-section.
drugs that I was going to say they stopped you from even getting all those good drugs that your brain naturally gives out. So you were feeling all that pain.
But maybe
because I was thinking maybe I like broke everything. So like I was just exposed to a lot of pain early.
Probably.
And so I was like, yeah, okay, I know what that feels like.
Yeah, my pain exposure has been mostly emotional. Rather than physical. Oh, God, it's so sad.
Oh, God, that's funny. Sad and funny.
Anyway, okay, next up, this was also something I read just before we got on the phone, which cracked me up. So there is this account, I guess, on Instagram of this Japanese biker girl, and she, like, rides around and has created this really popular Instagram account. And then it just came to light that it's not a girl at all, that it was some like 50-year-old man that was using the Face app to like change the way he looked. And he was like super nice about it. He was just like, well, nobody really cares what a middle-aged old uncle thinks. So I wanted it to be more appealing. Like he was just like rebranding.
Yes.
And like people started to feel like something was up because they noticed her arm was really hairy.
Face app. Yeah, the problem is it only really works on the face.
Right. There are limitations. Anyway, that cracked me up. So,
well, you know, that's really funny because it implies that like it took a while for people to catch on, which means they probably were looking at other things in the photo. So like, did he give her boobs or something? How are they so distracted that they missed hairy limbs?
Point. Right, because they said it was a
how
hairy
much do they
arm.
love motorcycles? I mean, geez.
Yeah, they just loved that hog that she was riding. I loved it. That cracked me up.
Gosh.
Okay. Those were just the latest.
I want to complain about something that is kind of related to I want to get your take on this.
Yes.
I was watching, and now I have done zero research, and I have no idea if I should be mad or not. So it's like perfect thing to be mad about.
When in doubt, I say just dive right into the anger.
Yeah, it feels like I should be mad about this, especially because it's like, I think also like white supremacy and racist stuff too. Okay. So I'm watching some television, and and Hulu with ads, and because I'm like never see commercials anywhere. And this ad came up for a car company. I want to say it was like Toyota or something, and they featured, and I noticed that they featured an entire black cast. It's like all black women. And I was like, oh, wow, look at that. Usually there's like one token white woman, not token, but like one white woman thrown in there because they're like, oh, we can't, God forbid we make it all people of color. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, this is nice. What a lovely change. Then I looked closer. It was fucking animated.
Oh.
Here's why I have a problem with that.
Okay.
If you present diversity and the people that you paid to animate that are white or not black women who you're showing on there as the actor, I have a problem with that. I feel like they're and it was so close to real life. Like you had to really look hard.
Oh, really?
To recognize, what do we feel about this? How do we feel about this? Is it just me that feels a little like, what the fuck? Like, you're like performative inclusion and diversity.
I wonder.
But you're not.
Do you remember the name of it?
No person of color is profiting off of this.
How do you know that?
Well, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I did zero research, and I have no information that they actually hired black animators or something like that. But I feel like they would make my instinct is that they didn't.
Right. And they probably didn't.
So I want to say I'm mad about this thing that I don't really know if I should be
mad
about.
Well, I think that's fair because, I mean, you know, there's all these articles coming out about Hank Azaria and how he's having to reckon with having done the voice for Apu or whatever that guy's name is on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a fair conversation to have about how we portray other cultures, other races, in animation, and who's doing it, like who are calling the shots. Mm-hmm. I think it's a fair question. And they didn't have any speaking parts. It was just narrated. It was just like narrated over it, and it was like, yeah. I mean, I think it's always safe to assume that people aren't doing the right thing. Because they rarely
so that
are.
made me feel like, because if at first glance you watch that, my first instinct was, wow, look at how nice that they have a cast of all black women.
Now you're like, I got bamboozled.
Did a single black woman make a dime off of this? But then they get me feeling all warm and fuzzy about Toyota because of this. I don't like that.
Yeah, we're on to you.
It might not have even been Toyota. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that's fair. No, I think it's definitely worth asking the question, like, who's behind this?
I got to find that ad again.
I'll tell you, there's a company that we're working with right now that is the opposite. It's called Public.com, and it is a trading app that I love to use for investing, and I am really excited about it because the Public.com community is made up of 40% women and 45% people of color.
There we go.
And I'll tell you what, like in finance, that is very impressive.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God, that gives me warm fuzzies. That is the opposite.
I'm just excited about it, and I wanted our listeners to, if you're thinking about looking into investing or if you use another app, I would encourage you to try Public because of that reason, but also like they don't promote risky or gambling-like behavior, and then they offer like trading tools for beginners so you don't have to be intimidated by it. And I'm just all for more of this in the finance world. Like after everything that's happened in the last year and all the headlines about craziness, I just feel like this is such a refreshing change. So give them a try. If you go to public.com/braincandy, you can follow me on public.com and see what I'm investing in. You can start investing today with as little as $1. You'll even get a free slice of stock when you join. Just go to public.com/braincandy to download the public.com app today. And somebody in our Q&A said that they had joined and they were loving it, and that made me happy.
Oh, great.
So that's fun. Okay. Moving on. Okay. I read a great article in the New York Times about the woman who sort of made Van Gogh Van Gogh. And I'm always so excited when I hear like information that's been suppressed because of sexism and all that stuff. When you find out, oh, there was a great woman behind the man, you know? So like, I'm sure you've heard about Vincent and his brother Theo, and they famously wrote all these letters back and forth. And Theo Van Gogh was like the steadier of the two, and he was always trying to rein Vincent in. And Vincent could, you know, of course, be his own worst enemy, but like his brother Theo really believed in him, all that jazz. Well, Theo was married to a woman named Jo, and she
I already love her. Love the name.
She's so cool. Jo Van Gogh. And she's so cool because she was madly in love with Theo, but they were only married for 1.5 years before Theo died. And then after his death, and of course after Vincent's death, she was sort of the only person that could propel Vincent into the art world. And she made it her life's mission.
Wow.
And here's what's so cool. I never knew this about art, but back in the day, artists were... It wasn't like the starving artist thing. These people were esteemed and had all these very rich patrons and, you know, like apprentices. And it was very prestigious. And Jo flipped the whole script and started pitching his art as like, you can see in the mind of this kind of like a madman and someone who's melancholy and frustrated and tortured. And then that became part of the art, which was like a new thing. They didn't do that.
Well, you know
back
what
then.
she introduced? The female perspective.
Right. A soul.
She introduced emotion. And remember when I was talking about the skateboard film?
Yeah.
And how it was the first time I heard skateboarding being discussed from a female who was passionate about it, and how there were so many more feeling words, and it was like the emotions of it.
Right.
That reminds me of this.
It's a whole new perspective when you change the way something is presented. And I just think it's so cool, and how it really did change the way we see artists now and we care about like what's the story behind the person. I mean, I think that's even why Banksy is such a interesting figure because of the mystery there, you know?
Oh, now I'm fascinated by her.
Isn't she cool?
Because I want to know. Now, we also have to remember that Theo was the one who was really pushing Van Gogh to like stay medicated
Yes.
and like go to doctor's appointments
Yeah.
and like get
Chill the
help
fuck out.
psychiatrically.
Yeah.
So we can imagine that there was a discussion between Theo and his wife about this, like behind the scenes,
Yeah.
you know. So mental health was clearly something that she cared about. And so I think about what person at that time and what family she must have grown up in.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's like in the medical field or a psychiatrist or like, I wonder what her parents did.
You know what? It did say in the article, but I don't remember. I should re-examine that because it would be interesting to see how she got so astute and
It's cool.
yeah, like I just love it because nobody's talking about Joe Van Gogh.
Right. The name alone, come on. And I'm going with my aunt in a couple months to see that Van Gogh exhibit.
Me
that
too.
is-
Oh, they're doing it in
cool.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, they have it in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, like I guess there's a tour, one. And
Yeah.
I can't wait
that's
to
so
see
cool. Yeah, me too.
So the
I'm
immersive
gonna
one, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
looks
everybody
really
says
cool.
it's amazing.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So when are you going? October is when I'm going.
I think July?
Okay, so you can tell
Yeah.
me if it's awesome. That's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's super cool. And then it also said that her diaries are now available online from the Van Gogh Museum, so you can check that out as well if you're interested
Love it.
in learning more.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about art is, yes, the paintings are wonderful and the actual art itself is interesting, but I feel like I'm almost more interested in how art reflects like what was going on in society at the time, and there's so much more, which is why it's so great to go to a museum or even like those online tours and actually do the tour.
Yeah, right. Because it feels kind of nerdy because it's always like you and then a bunch of like 80-year-olds.
Look who our listeners, please.
No, yeah, like
They would love this. Nobody here thinks that's nerdy.
absolutely, yes.
But yes, I know what you mean. There's a certain time where you're like, I don't want to do that.
Well,
That's
and I
nerdy.
could do
Or
without
like,
the
I don't have to.
headsets.
I had this whole idea of like, what are they going to teach me that I don't know?
Sarah
Pretty much
Louise.
everything, Sarah. That was like Dunning-Kruger in full effect at the museum when
Yeah,
I was like 14, 15, 16.
Yeah, I think they know a
Maybe
thing or
25.
two. You might be surprised. Okay, before I share my next thing, I want to remind everybody that Mother's Day is coming up, and you need to buy your mama something lovely, or maybe you could drop a hint that you would like something, and I would recommend the lovely jewels from Pandora. I think this is a great idea for a gift. I've been getting my mom these charms for, like 15 years. You should see her bracelet. It's like half the weight of her arm.
I love something that is a ongoing collectible gift.
Right?
They're really cute.
And I just love how you can buy all different like styles and themes and like things that she loves. You can pick out the perfect charm for, what she's into. But they have tons of stuff. They have rings, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and you can add charms to that. You can customize it to fit your style and personality.
I would get my mom one that had all of the zodiac signs on it.
That would be cool.
Like a bunch of different ones. All the she would be easy to get one for her.
Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff like that, like symbols of love and gratitude or infinity symbols, angel wings, stuff like that. And then it's just a nice thing that they can have forever and keep in the family. I think it's really fun. Thank the mom in your life for always being there with a sparkling gift from Pandora Jewelry. Shop online or in store between April 22nd and April 26th and receive a bonus gift with your $150 Pandora jewelry purchase, a limited edition sterling silver bangle. Go to us.pandora.net/braincandy to start shopping or find a store near you. That's us.pandora.net/braincandy. Okay, moving on. Do you think you are able to spot a liar?
Oh. Well, yeah, because freaking everybody's a liar. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that one.
My favorite thing about this entire show is never knowing what your answer is going to be.
You thought I was like, yeah, you know, I bet I could tell if somebody has that like smirk and da-da-da. No,
Yeah.
everybody's just lying.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to make this real easy. Everyone's fucking lying.
I mean, Susie, I lied to the U.S. Postal Service the other day when I sent you illegal goods in the mail.
Goods.
I hope there's not a statute. I hope there is a statute of limitations that's like 2 weeks on that. So
what
we're like
cracked
all good
me
and nobody's
up
going to.
About when I got the package.
Did you see me cross it out?
Like,
Susie.
And even though you had told me, I still was like, who is Sarah Brown?
And then I was like, why? What the hell? I just like picked my mom's maiden name. Like, that's not very.
That's hilarious. I didn't know the story behind your pseudonym.
Oh.
Yeah.
You just thought I picked like brown rice, just a different kind of rice.
Right, you hyphenate now. Sarah Brown Rice.
Oh, gosh.
Wow, your mom should have hyphenated. That would have been hilarious.
That joke was
but why
definitely.
didn't she?
Because of the obvious reasons. And the funniest part about that is that her name, if you say Sally in any Spanish-speaking country, they think you're saying salt. Mm-hmm. So to say Sally Brown Rice.
That sounds delicious.
Really funny.
That is so funny. I never knew
Salted
this.
brown rice. Oh, God.
Okay, back to lying. So,
Yes. Oh, right. Lying. Yeah. No. I feel like I think I can. I can usually. I think I'm good at setting somebody up to fall into a lie, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that person's. Like I would do it on the challenge a lot.
okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes,
Where you're
I
like,
do.
Ask questions, and you're like, I know the answer to this, and I know based on the answer they give me whether they're lying or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like when I was reading this article, which I think was also in the New York Times, I was sort of like, you know, when you have that feeling of like, well, maybe most people can't, but I'm good at it. And I have I have no idea if I actually am. But okay, so like, you know, historically people claim they fidget or they look in a certain, like they avert their gaze or whatever. But it says that none of the things we often hear have proved reliable indicators of a liar. But some are like weakly correlated, like dilated pupils and a very tiny, undetectable to the human ear shift in the pitch of the voice. But they were doing all these tests with like law enforcement. So it said neither law enforcement experts or student volunteers were able to pick true from false statements better than 54% of the time.
Oh, I think I read this.
And what did you think? Like, were you like buying it?
And the police officers were, and isn't it something like when they knew that it, well, you know, you're going to say it.
No.
There was something that they were good at, when they knew that it was.
Well, so the cops said the experiments aren't realistic enough because, like, it's kind of like when they would test things for the challenge. Like, there's something that's unaccounted for when you don't have the adrenaline and the competition meaning anything to you. And I feel like this might be similar. So that's what they argued. And then they changed it and they went through hours of videotaped police interviews of a convicted serial killer, and they picked out 3 known truths and 3 known lies. And then they asked police officers to view the 6 statements and judge which were true and which were false. And the interviews were in Dutch, so they couldn't even know what the words were.
Ah, that's smart.
Yeah. So
that's
just
really smart.
Nonverbal cues or
Good
whatever.
job, research. Tip of the hat.
Yeah. Good job, science.
One. Excellent way to isolate variables.
It said the officers were correct 64% of the time, which is better than chance, but still not very accurate. But the ones who did the worst were those who said they relied on nonverbal stereotypes like liars look away or liars fidget. And then the article said, like, if a husband killed his wife, he could be upset for all kinds of reasons, like remorse or just like getting caught. So nonverbal behavior is idiosyncratic, and then you focus on it just trips you up because it's like more about emotion than whether they're lying.
And what if you have incongruent affect?
Right. Which I think happens a lot.
I have that.
Mm-hmm. It's very
really
common.
Like, oh my gosh, it's the worst. Laughing when you get nervous or embarrassed or scared.
Yeah. And like...
people think, what the heck is so funny? You must not care. No, I really, really care.
Then they were doing like to see if you could watch a video of people like at the airport and try to figure out which one was, you know, the bad guy. Mm-hmm. But that because bad guys purposefully try to look natural, it's almost impossible to know the difference between someone
absolutely.
Who's just,
And then this is what, when we watched that documentary about the woman who in Italy who was Amanda Knox.
Oh, yeah. Amanda Knox.
Amanda
wrongly
Knox.
Accused, yeah.
Yes. And how she's had that guilty look.
She really did.
That terrifies me. I have this.
I'm afraid of taking a lie detector test and failing when I'm telling the truth.
Right. I am like the idea of... remember when I got pulled over and for a DUI and absolutely was not under the influence because, they gave me a breathalyzer and they let me go and everything. But in my mind, I was so nervous that I was like, okay, what would somebody who's not drunk say right now? And I'm like, you're not drunk. What? Just say what you would say. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to say I'm so nervous because somebody who's drunk wouldn't say it.
Yes.
Way too much thinking, Sarah. All I had to do was blow into the breathalyzer. They're like, oh, yeah, you're fine.
Breathalyzer,
they still put me through the field sobriety test, so what the hell? All for just having a light out over my license plate. And I think because I was dancing in the car.
Oh, no. You were asking for it.
I was asking for it.
Well, okay, so it said that another problem is it's cultural. So, like, averting your gaze in some cultures is a sign of respect. And like a prolonged stare, rapid blinking, complaining, whistling, exaggerated yawning, covering the mouth while speaking, and excessive fidgeting or personal grooming are the same way. It depends on where you grew up and what you're used to. So
that's why cultural consideration is so important in everything. And we really just look at things through like a white, heterosexual, male lens.
Yeah. So like basically you can't spot a liar and...
No.
Like, it would be nice if we could, but it's basically impossible.
Yeah, that's why I just go with everybody's lying.
Right. Let me save you some time here.
Yeah, let me save you some time. Liar.
But yeah, that does scare me.
Except me. I tell the truth to a fault.
Well, that's for sure. It's the worst thing.
Oh, my God. Sometimes I'm like, Sarah, you don't need to say that. Just stop talking.
Just stop talking. We have a fear of dead air. That's why we're in the right industry here.
That is so true.
Okay, next up, I want to tell you about a super fun game that Sarah and I are playing called June's Journey. Mm-hmm. Okay, who doesn't love a good mystery, right? And
who doesn't love a hide and seek?
Yes. And like June's Journey will let you be like the inner sleuth. Okay, maybe you won't know who's lying, according to the study we just learned about, but you can at least find a thrilling adventure set in the Roaring 20s. That's something. It's just super cute. It's about this June Parker, who's a detective investigating a mysterious death of her sister, but it's just a free-to-download mobile game. It's super cute. And you can put your power of observation to the test and memory and logic skills, which...
Well, I love that.
We love that. That's super fun. And it's just a nice little break from the stress of life, as always. It's really, really fun. You guys are going to love it.
Download it for the cute Roaring 20s outfits and hairdos alone.
Yeah. Well, and just because then we can talk about it together. You guys can tell us how you're doing. Download June's Journey free today on the Apple App Store or Google Play. That's called June's Journey. And then tell us so that we know you're playing with us. Okay. Moving along. I watched the most hilarious documentary I've ever seen.
Whoa, tell me. I need to see this.
I've now watched it 3 times because I can't quit
Stop
laughing about
it.
It's
Stop.
hilarious.
Susie, I swear to God, if you tell me that you have not seen Interstellar and you have watched that goddamn documentary 3 times,
Listen, Sarah.
I am going to go through the roof. And even though my voice went up, that is not a lie.
When you watch it, you will understand. It's called Frank and Cindy. It's on Netflix. But make sure you choose the right one because the right one is from, 2004. And then in 2007, they made a movie based on the documentary. So don't watch the movie. Watch the original documentary. Frank and Cindy. Oh, my God.
Tell me what your favorite part is. I am already I don't even know what the hell this is about, but it's already making me laugh so much because of how much you like it.
Sarah! Like, my sister and I just send each other, quotes from the movie all day.
Oh, my gosh. We'll cancel my plans this afternoon.
This woman, Cindy, married this guy, Frank, who in the 80s had a one-hit wonder that I had never heard of called Whirly Girl. And she thought he was like, on his way to the big time, but it was just like a one-hit wonder, and then like he basically quit working, and she had to support him. And they're totally dysfunctional, and there's her son, GJ, is the filmmaker.
GJ? GJ.
Correct, is the filmmaker. And he is just basically documenting his crazy mom and stepdad. But I can't even put into words how funny it is. Every single line from the movie is hilarious. If you're into, like, dysfunction being kind of funny.
Well, hello.
Well, I mean, that's my whole life. So, like, right. I really connect to
I
it.
cannot wait to see this.
Like, anybody that grew up with fucked up parents like I did, but developed a sense of humor to cope with it, will be like, oh, this is my life, and it's hilarious. So please watch it, and then report back to me.
I can't wait. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, and that reminds me, as Sarah knows, I'm launching Brain Candy Documentary Club.
Yes.
As sort of like an extension of just Brain Candy shenanigans, because I love our book club so much, but I wanted, like, to be able to talk to people about all these documentaries I watch.
Yes.
I thought, why don't I give it a try?
Do a deep dive and really get everybody, because that's what, when you're watching the documentary, don't you just want to talk about everything?
Yes.
And we can't make this a podcast just about documentaries.
Right.
There already are those.
Right. So I'm like, we'll go on Zoom. Like, I'll tell them what movie to watch. The first one is going to be The Wolf Pack, which was put out about 10 years ago. And we're going to go on Zoom, and then everyone will have watched it by then, and we'll just talk about it and have a laugh. And you can sign up on our website just to get the newsletter, and then if you're signed up for the newsletter, you'll get the link and everything. Because I just wanted to do a test run to see if anyone was interested. So this is sort of like...
Heck yeah.
A test. So there you go. Okay. Moving on. Hold on. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is there was this great article in The Cut about Wikifeet.
Oh, we love this. Do we love this? Question mark.
I'm totally obsessed with Wikifeet because they take pictures from our Instagrams and put them on this site for people that have enthusiasm for feet.
Yeah, I've been down that road in a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, but they're on top of it. Don't worry. Like, they're still stealing all your content and posting it. So this person that wrote the article, she had discovered that there was a Wikifeet page for her. And she's just a journalist. She's not even, like, on TV or anything. And she was just like, I got to figure out who is taking the pictures from my Instagram. So she would, like, post a picture on her story that included her feet. And then she would see who had looked at her story by the time that it had been put on Wikifeet. So she was able to narrow it down and figure out who could possibly be posting these. And then eventually she found the guy, and he agreed to be interviewed. And she just asked him, like, when did you first become into feet? Like, what is it about the feet? And why do you take my pictures and put them on Wikifeet? Because she said...
What was he?
What did you say?
What kind of guy is this?
He was 58 years old.
Okay.
And he said that, he started being into feet when he was young, and told stories about why. But then she
Can
was
you
like...
give me some highlights of why?
He had a pool, and his sister's friends would come over, and they would have bare feet at the pool.
Oh my
and
gosh.
he just started getting really into their arches, Sarah.
Oh.
Specifically.
I always want to know what part it is.
I know, because my friend Oliver said he thought that it was like a more is more situation, like the bigger the better.
Bigger feet?
That's what he told me. He was like, I think it's like
I think that's some people.
Well,
I think it's all
that's
different.
Right.
I think some people like I've even heard guys who like the toes like spilling out of the tight shoes.
Yes.
Which to me is the most unattractive, not only most attractive, well, maybe that's why they like it, just like total pain and discomfort for women.
Yeah, I think some of them like that stuff. Some of them like painted toenails. I think some of them like naturals. Some of them
naturals. I have gotten that the thing that people are interested in mine for are my stubby toes.
Oh,
I have
bet.
like they're kind of they're like
Let me
they're
see
not
what you're
long and
rated
finger-like.
as. I have almost a perfect rating on there, by the way.
Oh, check out! Oh, God,
Listen,
now I'm
I don't
gonna be
like to brag.
They should not take a peek at what mine look like now. I have not had a pedicure. I mean, I've given myself a pedicure,
Let me
but
see.
I haven't had a pro job in well over a year.
We have just about the same rating. You and I have
what's
beautiful feet. It's like basically 4.5 stars out of 5.
I'll take it. Look, we're not for everybody.
It even says your shoe size is 7.5. Is that accurate? Oh my
That is
God.
accurate.
How the hell do they know that?
How do they know that?
Now,
How do they know what size my shoe is?
do you think they do like for scale? Like if there's like a quarter or something?
Probably. I can measure something on my iPhone, so I can't,
I think they must.
They must. They're like, oh yeah, look at how look at her foot compared to that chair over there. That's a solid 7.5. Or imagine, like, what if that were like their superpower? They're like,
Yeah.
they just look at feet and they're like, it's kind of like that old timey person who would like guess the weight at the carnivals, but instead it's like, let me say that. That
It's
looks
like a real
6.5.
niche talent.
Which is like not that impressive because they're not even that. You could be like all of 5 sizes or something.
Well, and like maybe they just made it up and they happened to get yours right. Who's to say?
Did they get yours right?
Let me look. I bet you they did, though. These people are connoisseurs. I mean,
Yeah.
they know their feet. Let me see. I am listed as 7.
But that's incorrect.
I would say I'm a 7.5 usually. Yeah. Well,
I even thought you're verging on an 8. Is that true?
no.
No, definitely not.
Maybe that my second toe, which looks more like a finger, that baby, she could get her own page. Okay,
It's so funny that I know exactly what your feet look like.
why?
I know exactly what your toes look like.
Because you spent a lot of time thinking about them, or what?
No, just because like that, we're BFFs, Suze.
Yeah. I know. Well, I mean,
You think I would know the position and layout of literally every item in your house because just that's how my brain works, and then have no idea what your feet look like?
that's true. I really should give you more credit.
Come on.
I know. I'm sorry. I just...
So ridiculous.
I didn't know, though, that Wikifeet had a rule that the only people that you can post pictures of are people who have an existing IMDb page, like someone who's been in media.
Oh, I like that rule.
Yeah, that seems a little less creepy.
Yes.
She asked him, though, like, do you ever wonder if someone would appreciate the fact that you're taking their pictures of their body and posting it on a fetish website without consent? And he said, yeah, I do think about it. I have a conscience. I don't want people to be upset, but I figure, they're posting these pictures anyway. And
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly don't feel violated.
I heard this saying once, everything's porn if you masturbate to it.
Yeah.
So Come on. We can't be, a fetish website, like, okay, like, I don't know. It just feels like, what can you do?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I wish
doesn't
everyone
bother
had
me
a foot
at
fetish.
all. It has bothered exes when I talk about it.
What?
I'm not kidding. It does not bother me at all.
What do you
I'm
think
like, yeah,
bothered
what
your exes? I mean,
God, I don't know. Is it the idea of other people? Like, maybe they saw it more sexualized than I did. And I was just like, man, they like my feet.
they clearly don't know that every single moment of our lives as women in public is sexualized.
Right.
So-
yeah, I'm like, I don't fucking care.
Please jerk off to my feet. I'm
Please.
flattered.
Yes. As long as you're just jerking off to me. Thanks.
I am fascinated
Just
by
glad
the
to be in
fetish.
somebody's mind.
Right. Right. I consider it an honor.
Yeah.
I wonder though, like do you think that that's the draw for your feet is the stubby ones? That's like
I think
the real...
so. Well, the only person that I know in real life that has an admitted foot fetish is Johnny Bananas.
Oh, I didn't know he did.
Oh, yeah, he loves feet. He's like, I don't know how sexual it is, but I know he definitely enjoys toes and likes and looks at them and they finds them.
I think it's a very common fetish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's more like if he doesn't like him, he's like, that's a turn off too.
Yeah.
But he's always been a fan of my feet, and he said it was the toes.
Oh my God.
And they nice, there's like a nice
Johnny
slope.
loves your feet?
Yeah.
Wow.
Doesn't like the rest of me, but don't like everything attached to him.
Yeah. He can't stand your legs. But
yeah, can't stand the brain that's making a move and
Right.
wiggling those toes.
I find the foot fetish fascinating. I always want to
me
ask
too.
questions. And they're usually pretty nice when you ask them. They'll open up about it. But there you go.
You know what would be it's really funny to me that if that's like a very specific part of the body,
Yeah.
and we accept it.
Right.
If you were to say that
Right.
there was a shin fetish,
Yeah. That's what I mean.
a calf fetish, a knee fetish, a thigh fetish, a finger fetish, all those things would seem weird to me.
True.
But when I'm like, yeah, I get that.
There must
What's
be
that about?
something about feet that makes them highly sexual in comparison to these other niche body parts.
It's got to be the part of the brain where that
Yeah.
I heard that a long time ago, and I know I don't know. What do I know? I think that's true.
Okay. Well, one thing I think is true is that your bank account should work with you, not against you.
Yes.
And thanks to Chime, an award-winning app and debit card with no hidden fees or monthly minimums, you can get what you deserve, which is, keeping your money that you earned. So Chime, here's some of the things that make it really cool. They have fee-free overdraft on up to $100 in debit purchases with spot me. It's like overdraft protection, but better. So that's super cool. You get your paycheck benefits like stimulus checks, tax returns up to 2 days earlier with direct deposit. People love getting their money faster. There's no hidden fees or monthly minimums. They have really great security. I just think it's a really nice service and it has a lot of benefits. And you can join the millions on Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes. It doesn't affect your credit score at all. Apply now at chime.com/braincandy. That's chime.com/braincandy. Here's the mandatory disclosures. Chime is a financial technology company. Banking services provided by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. Eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Overdraft only applies to debit card purchases. Limits start at $20 and may be increased up to $100 by Chime. Early direct deposit depends on your payer. Out-of-network cash withdrawals fees apply. Third-party and cash deposit fees may apply. Go to chime.com/braincandy for details. Woo! Okay.
Whoa.
Okay, so we have a guest today. I'm really excited about this author, Daniel Gibbs, who wrote a book called A Tattoo on My Brain, a neurologist's personal battle against Alzheimer's disease. I think this is such a fascinating story. As the title suggests, Daniel Gibbs was a successful neurologist who worked with lots of Alzheimer's patients, and then he discovered that he was, in fact, among them and was diagnosed with Alzheimer's himself. Thankfully, he was diagnosed very early on, and so he has been able to chronicle his journey and sort of make himself his own research. And I just think that's so cool because he's able to observe the changes in cognition and the symptoms that he is developing. And he put them together in this book, which I think does such a great job of describing what happens in the body of an Alzheimer's patient and offers advice on how best to avoid and live in a way that would slow progress of the symptoms and cognitive impairment. And he gives his ideas about what he thinks the future should be in terms of the research of the disease, a disease that affects so many families around the world. So it's such a great book. If you are interested in the subject, A Tattoo on My Brain is the name, and we welcome Daniel Gibbs to the show. Thank you so much for coming on Brain Candy. It's such an honor.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
I loved your book, A Tattoo on My Brain. How the heck did you decide to call it that?
Well, it's interesting. The title actually came to me before I started writing the book. And the origin of the title is both figurative and literal, because as you may have read in the book, in one of the studies I was participating in, I had an adverse reaction that caused some bleeding into my brain, which was, I recovered from it completely over a number of months, but it left behind an iron pigment called hemosiderin. So when I have future MRI scans, that probably for the rest of my life, it'll show these little black dots. And I thought that made kind of a nice analogy for to speak of the tattoo, because I actually do have a literal tattoo on my brain. But it also is in a figurative sense, I don't have any tats. I've
pretty straight-laced.
Pretty straight-laced, yeah. No one in my family does. But it seems that having a tattoo is a way of coming out and making yourself public about things. And so that's really the whole project has been trying to dispel some of the I'm blocking on the word, the stigma about Alzheimer's disease and the reluctance to talk about it among families, among the population in general. So I'm very out front with it, and I talk to it about my neighbors, my friends. I've just had an incredible exchange this morning with my friend Reed, who used to be my partner, and I just posted I have a blog. I've never blogged about anything, but two people, my wife and my co-writer, said you really need to have a blog about the book. So I've been doing that, and the blog I posted last night was about walking in the nearby forest with my dog Jack, which we do almost daily when the weather's nice. And I had a couple of pictures of Jack in there, and my friend Reed, who also is a dog lover and has a pretty wry sense of humor, said that he didn't realize how long Jack's ears were. He's a spaniel, and so he got long ears. And he said, "Can he fly like Dumbo?" And so this, you might imagine, led to a series of more and more absurd
right.
comments. And then finally, he sent me a cartoon that he had drawn that showed me walking along with, on a leash. Jack is up in the air, flapping his ears. And some horrified man walking by with his dog.
You know what? Jack seems like a pretty magical dog, so I wouldn't be surprised if Jack could fly. I was thinking, though, when you say, your neighbors and how when you originally wrote about your diagnosis, that was kind of how they all found out. And that must have been a very strange experience for you because everyone all of a sudden knows all your business. And I was wondering if the way they treated you changed at all.
For the most part, no.
Okay, good.
Because I'm really not that impaired, so I can still carry on a reasonable conversation, and people don't have to be, cautious
freaked
about
out.
Yeah. Talking about the neighbors, I did a post. And actually, that turned into an article in Scientific American that's coming out this week about face blindness in Alzheimer's disease and otherwise. And the post starts out, or the article starts out with experience I had a few months ago where I came across this woman on my street pushing a baby carriage and walking her dog. And there were 3 women on our street who had babies within a month and a half of each other about a year ago. And 2 of them have dark hair and 1 has blonde hair. And so I was chatting away with this woman with blonde hair and asking her how old the baby was now. And she was quite pleased to talk to me. And then as she walked away pushing the baby, it struck me that she had the wrong dog.
No.
The woman with blonde hair has a black lab, and this was some little dog I've never really seen before. So I was talking to an entire stranger, and that was due in part to my face blindness called prosopagnosia, which is very common in Alzheimer's disease, but also the fact that everyone's wearing a mask now, so we cover up the facial features. So I had a double whammy. So I used that as a lead-in to talk about face blindness, what part of the brain is damaged with that, and some of the famous people who've had face blindness.
Yes, and I've read about it amongst, celebrities that say they have it, and it always sounds so unsettling to me because if you don't have it, we all rely so much on just sight memory of someone's look. Right. Did you find it unsettling?
Yeah, well, mine is not as severe as most people who have it congenitally. About 2% of the population is born with face blindness, and they often never realize it because it's just, the way life is.
Yeah.
But they have to recognize people using other means. And I have a former colleague who has severe face blindness, and she can't tell who anyone is until they speak or do something else characteristic. Because she can't recognize the facial features to identify them. I'm not that bad, but I still confuse people a lot, even without the masks. So I tend not to commit myself to who somebody is, unless I can recognize their dog. I'm fine with that.
I love that. That's great. Just everyone needs to have a dog to remedy this.
Absolutely.
It's the right thing to do. I was fascinated by the idea of being one's own sort of research project, which is sort of what you've become to yourself. Do you find that a natural situation, or was that an adjustment?
No, well, for me, it's a coping mechanism, because by looking at my case intellectually, I can step back and analyze it and not be freaked out. So, that's kind of a unique thing, being and one of the advantages of being a neurologist, being able to kind of enjoy the interesting things about it. For example, I think, I did for sure write about this in the book, that when I saw my first PET scan that was done as part of a study, my amyloid PET scan, it showed amyloid where you would expect it for Alzheimer's disease. But I honed in, I asked them to enlarge the image and looked at some of the olfactory parts of the brain, because the first symptom that I had was olfactory loss. and these phantasmias, these illusory smells that come out. And sure enough, I was able to see depositions of amyloid in two of the parts of the brain that are involved in higher processing of olfaction, of smell. And we all thought that was pretty cool. There were about 20 people in the room, and no one had really made that connection with PET scans and these olfactory centers, although it had certainly been known for decades that the first pathology of Alzheimer's disease is seen in these olfactory centers. So,
why do you think that is? Can you help me understand? Because I find this smell situation, we're hearing a lot about it with COVID as well, and smell is such a mysterious sense anyway. And I just want to know more about why it is so connected with memory. And I had no idea it was even a part of Alzheimer's, that symptom. What the heck?
Well, I don't know that I have a good answer.
Give
for
me
you.
something.
I'm desperate. We don't know really. There are several different. It is. I mean, you can start with the facts that the progression of the pathology of Alzheimer's. It's first seen in the entorhinal cortex, which is adjacent to the hippocampus. So that's a memory area. And at the same time, it's found in the olfactory bulb and some of the other olfactory centers. So that's years before there are any symptoms. And why that is, one can speculate, but I have no idea why it is. It's analogous to Parkinson's disease, although the pathology is totally different. But the Lewy bodies that are seen in Parkinson's disease first are seen in olfactory parts of the brain, in certain parts of the brain stem, and oddly enough, in some of the autonomic nerve plexuses in the gut. But that's before there are any movement problems or cognitive problems or anything like that. Parkinson's, about 80% of people with Parkinson's disease have some noticeable loss of their sense of smell up to 20 years before they have any motor symptoms. And I was well aware of that. I was not so aware of the data for Alzheimer's disease. And it has been known for quite a while that the vast majority of people with Alzheimer's disease, by the time they have a diagnosis, have some degree of loss of smell, although many of them are not aware of it. But if they're tested, then to determine their olfactory thresholds, they are impaired. But my feeling, the pathology in both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease starts at about the same time, about 10 to 20 years before the other symptoms start. And I think the reason it was not recognized so much with Alzheimer's disease is that, at least in the past, by the time people with Alzheimer's first saw a doctor about it, they were in the more advanced stages and probably weren't able to cogently give a history of, and probably they weren't asked about their sense of smell. I certainly didn't ask my patients about their sense of smell until the last 5 or 6 years of my practice. So I suspect that's what it is. Whereas people with Parkinson's disease, if they have cognitive problems, it's late in the disease. And I think they probably are more aware of their smell
and can
issues
report it.
And can talk about it.
Do you find that the change in your sense of smell or the deterioration of it affects your joyfulness? Because it is a sense we kind of take for granted.
Yeah.
And like in your book, I saw the picture of your wife's beautiful pie.
Yeah.
And, we all know that lovely smell. And
Yeah.
I wondered if it gets you down.
Well, I not as much as it does to a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people just really, who I've talked to, particularly you hear a lot of people with COVID and how they've reacted to their loss of smell.
Yeah. And
it really bums them out. But I think, with Alzheimer's, it happens so slowly, over a number of years that I just kind of got used to it. I think if you lost your sense of smell abruptly, like you do with COVID, that would be a real shock and really hard to take. I don't really miss it, except I really miss the smell of bacon. That
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about that smell. Bacon smells better than it tastes, as far as I'm concerned.
That's so true.
Yeah. So we don't eat bacon much anymore, but, if I'm at a kid's house and they're having breakfast, I think, boy, it sure would have been nice to be able to smell that bacon. But frankly, I really miss it anymore. So, I mean, a lot of people would, and a lot of people are afraid of that.
Okay, so I was wondering, since you are a fancy doctor, but now you're also a patient, if anything surprised you since you got the diagnosis that you didn't realize when you were just working with patients.
I'm sorry, can you explain that question again?
So as someone experiencing Alzheimer's, did anything surprise you that you just weren't aware of when you were treating people and you thought, oh, I never thought this would happen, or I never thought it would feel this way? Were there any surprises?
Yeah. Well, my disease is still very early, so I don't have problems too much with interacting with doctors or anybody for that matter, except in groups. I don't do well sorting out conversations in groups, but I won't get sidetracked on that right now. I've become more sensitive to being able to put my shoes in my feet, mixing my metaphors. I've become more sensitive to putting myself in the place of patients with severe disease, even though I'm not there, and recognizing that the mistake that I made as a doctor, one of the many mistakes, I'm sure, when interacting with my patients with Alzheimer's disease, was not was getting impatient and talking to the family around them and not waiting for them to respond, because one's latencies as you get along and your response latencies increase, and it takes you a while to process a question and decide on an answer and then formulate a response. And meantime, the conversation around you may have moved on to somewhere else. So in this busy world and in the way medicine has changed to become more busy, there isn't a lot of time for patient interaction. So I do, I speak to medical students several times a year at our local medical school, actually through the Alzheimer's Association, but they're from the local medical school. And one of the points I try to make is no matter how advanced the patient is, go to them first and listen to what they say, and don't race to get information from the family, even though there will be important information to be gleaned from the family. But treat the patient with respect and forever treat them like a human being and make accommodations for their slowness in responding.
Well, it sounds like you have a great deal of empathy, and one of the things you mention in the book is how sometimes with Alzheimer's patients, empathy can decrease and apathy can increase. And I had never known that before. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that's part of the disease. I mean, I think that's due to damage to the brain. It's I don't have I can't tell you what part of the brain is linked to that.
Yeah.
But it is a problem for almost everybody. And they're not quite the same, apathy and empathy, but it makes the apathy part of it makes it really hard to get up and do something. And part of that is probably due to damage in the prefrontal cortex, which is one of the earliest places that the pathology shows up. And that's the part of our brain that, among other things, help us make plans and to carry out tasks. And the opposite of that is what apathy is all about.
Yeah.
But the empathy I've had I have a little trouble with that. I have to make a real effort to understand other people's problems, and more than I did before. I don't know quite what causes that, but it's a well documented thing that people with Alzheimer's lose their sense of empathy to a certain extent.
I was fascinated by the description you gave of cognitive reserve. Mm-hmm. And I was curious about, well, first, can you explain to our listeners what that is?
Well, I can try. I mean, it's a complicated concept that
you did great in the book.
That not everybody is on board with, but it is empirically, it seems to make sense. And there's this concept that people who have high cognitive reserve, and this doesn't mean more brain, it appears to be more connections within the brain. And the people who have high cognitive reserve, some of it may be genetic, but a lot of it seems to be due to the amount of school you have, the richness of childhood experiences, and it seems to be really, if not set, at least influenced a lot in very early childhood. So people who have high cognitive reserve tend to be more resistant to the neuropathological changes in the brain of Alzheimer's disease for a period of time. So that as time goes on, their brain is still having the plaques and tangles accelerating probably at the same rate as somebody with low cognitive reserve, but it's not causing as much cognitive distress until it does. And then when it starts to give out, the batteries run out, if you will, then there's a precipitous fall, and people with high cognitive reserve do well for a number of years, and then they kind of fall off the cliff, as I like to say. So I'm kind of waiting to fall off the cliff, and hopefully it'll be a number of years from now. But there's a lot of research done on how can you build cognitive reserve, and probably the earlier you do it, the better. But things like staying intellectually and socially active are important, and exercise seems to play into that as well. The aerobic exercise in midlife, and diet and things like that. So that doesn't really answer your question very well, but it is an kind of an ambiguous thing, and frankly, some people just say garbage. Just that doesn't make sense. So, but I'm a believer in cognitive reserve.
Well, and I was thinking about the recommendations you give throughout the book of a healthy life before and after the diagnosis, and it's all the stuff we all already know, right? And we all should be doing, but very few of us do. Eat right, exercise, have meaningful relationships, get sleep. Why the heck don't we do these things?
Yeah, and that's the key, because it looks like the earlier you start it, the better, because once the brain is getting damaged, once nerve cells are dying, it's really too late, and horses are out of the barn. And the same thing holds for, and this is personal opinion. I think that the main reason I think that we were having so much trouble finding medications that work for Alzheimer's disease, the disease-modifying medications, is because we're using them too late. I think by the time cognitive problems are starting, it's too late. So one of my things I'm really trying to push is to look earlier in the disease and identifying people before they have cognitive impairment, and at the very least, getting people who are risk for disease, have a family history of disease, or know their APOE4 status, they should be starting these things in their 40s or 50s or young, and of course that's the busiest time of our life when we've got kids all over the place but I think it's for those who are at risk, and anyone with first degree relative has a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. I would urge them to really start at the very least a regular aerobic exercise program. And I see the young people, young, I mean your age.
I wish.
Jogging every day, and that's great. But waiting until you retire, that's too late. It may be too late.
Well, that was my favorite part of the book, was hearing your ideas about if we could change the way the research is done and focus on these early years that are sort of the latent years, that we might be able to make more progress. Do you think people are going to listen to you, Doc?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're already. I'm not the only one. The research paradigms now are shifting to early.
Okay.
It's much harder to do a study in people who have no symptoms.
Yeah.
It's hard to find those research subjects. So, and there are several ongoing studies now of people, for example, who are known ApoE4 positive but have no symptoms. But finding those subjects took a number of years and an incredible amount of money. So we're getting more and more tests coming out that will help us identify Alzheimer's disease pathologically before it is cognitively apparent. And we've got the PET scans now, amyloid and PET and the tau PET. And of course, people like to say, well, just because you have amyloid in your brain doesn't mean you're going to get Alzheimer's disease. And that's true. About 30% of people who die in their 80s or so have amyloid in their brain and had no cognitive impairment. Mm-hmm. But my comeback to that is, well, yeah, they didn't have it yet. But if they'd lived to be 100, they probably would have. Mm-hmm. But now we're also being able to measure tau, the abnormal protein in the neurofibrillary tangles. And that starts to appear in the brain, at least by PET scan, just a couple of years before the cognitive impairment. So now we've got blood tests, a number of blood tests for both amyloid and tau that haven't been approved yet, but may make it, at least on a research basis, may make it possible to identify people who have Alzheimer's pathology, or at least a strong evidence of it, long before, maybe 10 years before they have any cognitive impairment. So I think that's going to be key to doing these studies going forward. And ultimately, I think, not in my lifetime probably, but we'll be able to start treating people for Alzheimer's disease before they start getting cognitively impaired.
That's what excites me. In the book, I just felt so much gratitude to you for spending this time sharing your story with us, because there's lots of things you could want to be doing right now. And so I just think it's such a wonderful service that you're providing to the rest of us. And I'm so thankful. And we have one question that we ask everybody that comes on the show. We have this theory that what you keep in the trunk of your car is symbolic of like where you are in your life. So we ask everybody what they keep in the trunk of their car. I bet you there's some, I was going to say, I bet there's something to do with your dog. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some treats. Dog crate, and some treats.
Jack deserves all the treats.
Yeah.
That's good. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm happy to do it.
I hope lots of people read A Tattoo on My Brain, and we're just so glad we got to talk to you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I hope you enjoyed that show. You got this far, so you must be a hardcore podcast fan. We'd love to invite you over to our podcast, Twinning at Life. We'll be gossiping about relationships, yes, ours included, bachelor chatter, pop culture, reality TV, and really a bunch of real-life stuff. Come join us and have some fun. Just search Twinning at Life on your podcast app.